Good morning one and all. I welcome you all to Ganesh IAS Academy. In today's session, we'll be seeing environment-based current affairs from the date October 27 to November 2nd, 2023. Let us get into the news articles one by one. The first news that we are going to see for today is UNCCD, that is United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. So, why is this UNCCD in news? Let us understand. So, recently this UNCCD has announced the launch of its first ever data dashboard. That is why it is in news. So, it has launched its first ever data dashboard, which shows that the land degradation is advancing in an astonishing rate across all regions of the world. So, that is why this is in news. Okay. So, because of the launch of this first ever data dashboard, this news we have to give importance. Okay. So, it compiled the national reporting figures from 126 countries. Okay. So, 126 countries have given their data, and based on this data they have created a data dashboard, and this is to provide a comprehensive overview of the land degradation situation globally. Okay. Next, the 21st session of this UNCCD will take place this year in November 2023 at Samarkand, Uzbekistan. Okay. This will happen, and this session will focus on reviewing the global progress towards achieving land degradation neutrality and addressing the related issues. So, from this news article, what do we have to understand? We need to know what land degradation is and what land degradation neutrality is. Moreover, we must also understand what is this UNCCD, United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. All these details we must have to know. Moreover, based on this data dashboard, what are all the key findings and key recommendations given by this UN convention? All these details we'll be understanding from this particular news article. So let us understand what is land degradation first. Okay, so what is land degradation? Land degradation is caused by multiple forces, okay, which includes extreme weather conditions, particularly drought. So drought is the one which causes land degradation. It is not the only cause, but it is one of the major causes. Okay, and it is also caused by human activities that pollute or degrade the quality of soil and land utility. So these are the reasons why land degradation is happening. And what are all the impact or implications of land degradation? The first and foremost is the desertification. So that is why land degradation and desertification are directly linked. And the convention's name is United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. Okay, and this desertification is caused due to land degradation. Okay, so desertification is a consequence of severe land degradation, and it is defined as a process that creates arid, semi-arid and dry subhumid areas. Okay, so with this word desertification, you must not come to a conclusion that it will be like a dry desert as we have in Thar desert. Okay, so it is not like Sahara desert or Thar desert, but those are the areas which are dry, arid, semi-arid and dry subhumid areas. These areas are called as desert areas in this context. Okay, so they have, the normal areas here have become arid, semi-arid and subhumid arid area because of the land degradation. Okay, so this is what we need to know, and it accelerates climate change and biodiversity loss. Moreover, it contributes to droughts also. Okay, it is caused by drought and it is also contributing to drought, and it also causes wildfire, involuntary migration and emergence of zoonotic infectious diseases. These are all the implications of land degradation. Okay, so this is what we need to know. Next, we need to understand something called as land degradation neutrality. Just like we have carbon neutrality or net zero that we study in climate change topic, here in degradation, land degradation topic, we have land degradation neutrality. This is again like a target which has been set globally. Okay, so this land degradation neutrality is a simple idea and a powerful tool which means to secure enough healthy and productive natural resources by avoiding degradation. That is land degradation neutrality. Okay, so we need to secure enough healthy and productive natural resources. So why are we doing this? To avoid land degradation. Okay, and this has to be done whenever possible and restoring land that has already been degraded. So we need to restore land and we must have to secure the healthy and productive natural resources. So restoration and protection, both these together will contribute to land degradation neutrality. Okay, and at its core are better land management. Obviously we must have better land management practices and better land use planning. These are the core areas of land degradation neutrality, which will improve economic, social and ecological sustainability for the present and future generation. Obviously when it is sustainable, it is focusing on present and future generation. Okay, so for economic, social and ecological sustainability, we need to go for land degradation neutrality, and this land degradation neutrality provides significant benefits in terms of mitigation and adaptation to climate change. This is also important. So this is how climate change and land degradation neutrality is interlinked. Okay, so when we go for land degradation, it will benefit in terms of mitigation and adaptation to climate change. Okay, and halting and reversing the land degradation can transform the land from being source of greenhouse gas emission to carbon sink. This is very important. So a land which is being a source of greenhouse gas emission will now be converted into a carbon sink, and this is done by increasing the carbon stocks in the soil and vegetation. So these are all the efforts that we need to take to achieve this land degradation neutrality, and this is how land degradation neutrality is linked to climate change. Okay, so all these details we need to understand concept wise. Next is about the convention. Okay, this convention was established in the year 1994, and it is the sole legally binding international agreement which is linking environment and development to sustainable land management. This is very important. So this is the only legally binding agreement which is linking environment and development to sustainable land management. Okay, and it addresses specifically arid, semi-arid and dry subhumid area, like we saw in the definition of what desertification is. Okay, which is known as dry lands in general. Okay, generally all these areas are called as dry lands. Okay, and where some of the most vulnerable ecosystems and people can be found. So in these dry lands, I mean arid, semi-arid and subhumid areas, there are vulnerable people living and vulnerable ecosystem is also thriving there. Okay, so we must have to protect and conserve them. Next is, this convention has 197 parties working together to improve the living conditions of the people in these dry lands, to maintain and restore the land and soil productivity, and also to mitigate the effects of drought. Okay, so that is why this convention has been adopted, and this convention actually works along with two other conventions. Okay, so it works with two other Rio conventions. In the Rio summit of 1992, Earth Summit, also called as Earth Summit. So in this summit, I mean, as a consequence of this summit, as an outcome of this summit, three conventions were adopted. One is the Convention on Biological Diversity, another is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and the third one is UNCCD that we are studying now. Okay, United Nations Convention to combat desertification. These are the three outcome conventions of this Rio Convention of 1992. Okay, and then we also have a strategic framework for 2018 to 2030. Okay, this is adopted by UNCCD, and it is the most comprehensive global commitment to achieve land degradation neutrality. This one, this strategic framework, in order to restore the productivity of the vast expenses of degraded land, and also to improve the livelihoods of more than 1.3 billion people and reduce the impact of drought on vulnerable population. So all these things we already discussed. Next is, this is also important, we have sustainable development goals, right? There are 17 sustainable development goals. Of these, the 15th goal, okay, it says we are determined to protect the planet from degradation, including through sustainable consumption and production. Okay, So this is the goal 15 of Sustainable Development Goals, and this is in line with the UNCCD convention. Okay, and production and sustainably managing its natural resources, taking urgent action on climate change so that it can support the needs of the present and the future generation. So this is the 15th goal, which is in line with the UNCCD convention. Okay, so now we are getting into the details of the database, the key highlights of the data dashboard which has been released recently. So according to this data, the land degradation trend at present is from 2015 to 2019, the world lost over 100 million hectares of productive land annually. So this much of land has been lost, and this area is actually equated to what? Twice the size of Greenland, which is alarming. Okay, twice the size of Greenland is alarming, and the land degradation is worsening rapidly on a global scale. This is one important thing which we need to know. Next is there are regional variances. This is also important. For example, Eastern and Central Asia along with Latin America and Caribbean experience severe degradation impacting at least 20% of their total area. Okay, you can use these statements in your answer writing. And Sub-Saharan Africa, Western and Southern Asia along with Latin America and Caribbean have experienced land degradation rates which are faster than the global average, which is important. Okay, here in Southern Asia will be a part, we India will be a part. Next is in Sub-Saharan Africa and in Latin America and Caribbean, 163 million hectares and 108 million hectares. Okay, 163 million hectares in Sub-Saharan Africa and then 108 million hectares in Latin America and Caribbean have succumbed to land degradation since the year 2015. These details, data are important. Next is, what are all the bright spots? What are all the good things or the positive things about this data? First thing is, some countries have shown progress in combating land degradation. For example, in Sub-Saharan Africa, we have a country that is Botswana, which has reduced land degradation from 36% to 17% of its territory, which is a good thing. Okay, and this country has committed to a total of 45.3 million hectares to land degradation neutrality. Okay, including both measures to avoid further degradation plus restoration interventions in selected land degradation spots. Like we saw already in land degradation neutrality, you have two things. One is we have to avoid further degradation, and the second thing is we need to restore the existing one. Okay, next is in Dominican Republic. It is another area in Sub-Saharan Africa. Here the proportion of degraded land has decreased from 49% to 31% between the year 2015 and 2019 with the ongoing efforts to restore 240,000 hectares. Okay, so these details are also important. Moreover, there is yet another country, that is Uzbekistan, where this year's UNCCD convention will be taking place in Samarkand of Uzbekistan, and even in this area the land degradation neutrality, the land degradation was alarming. Okay, so Uzbekistan reported the highest proportion of degraded land, that is 26.1% in the Central Asian region, and it also saw the largest decrease, which is a good thing, that is from 30% it has reduced to 26% compared to 2015 data. Okay, and between these 2 years, that is 2018 and 2022, Uzbekistan carried out saxol planting. What is this saxol planting? This is a tree which is dwelling in desert area that primarily grows in arid regions. So they are adopting an alternate method of planting, that is saxol planting, and this is done to eliminate the salt and dust emissions from the drained bottom of the Aral Sea. This is important. One important geography question can be asked from this area. Okay, next is, what is India's statistics, which is very important. That is, the degraded land area in India has been increased from 4.42% in 2015 to 9.45% in 2019, which is a serious concern for India. Okay, we need to take more efforts to combat this desertification or land degradation. That is what we need to know. Next, what are all the recommendations given by this UNCCD? That also let us understand. So UNCCD data emphasizes the need to restore 1.5 billion hectares of degraded land by the year 2030 to achieve land degradation neutrality targets, which was outlined in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 15 that we already saw. Okay, and then UNCCD highlights that although the global trends are concerning, it is still possible to meet or exceed land degradation neutrality goals through stopping further degradation and accelerating restoration efforts. So they are actually being optimistic here. Next is, many countries have set voluntary LDN targets, that is neutrality targets, for 2030, and funding here is very crucial to take many efforts. So these are all the recommendations given by this particular dashboard, data dashboard. Okay, so this is what we need to understand from this particular news article. Let us move to the next one now. The topic that we are going to discuss now is Candolleomyces Albosquamosus. What is this? It is actually a new species of mushroom found. Okay, so where have they discovered this mushroom? Those details we need to understand. Okay, Candolleomyces. So Candolleomyces albosquamosus. So recently, the Jawaharlal Nehru Tropical Botanic Garden and Research Institute have revealed a newly identified species of mushroom, this Candolleomyces albosquamosus, which was found on their campus, which is within the Western Ghats in Kerala. Okay, so where have they found this? Western Ghats. This is important from exam point of view. In prelims, this may be asked. Next, this delicate mushroom shows a charming honey yellow cap. Okay, it has an honey yellow cap with distinctive white woolly scale like structures. So this is its structure, and it thrives on dead logs and bamboo clumps within the natural forest habitat. So these are all the features of this particular mushroom species which we need to understand. Okay, so where is it found? In Western Ghats. That is what is important from this news article. And what are all the special features of this mushroom that has been recently discovered, identified? Okay, so this is how the mushroom will be looking. Okay, it has this honey yellow color. The topic that we are going to discuss now is Subsidiary Body on Scientific, Technical and Technological Advice Meeting. So what is this Subsidiary Body on Scientific, Technical and Technological Advice? Okay, this body comes under which organization? Let us understand all these details. Okay, so recently the 25th meeting of this body, that is Subsidiary Body on Scientific, Technical and Technological Advice, have taken place in Kenya, Nairobi, and it concluded with the recommendation which is aimed at facilitating transition from agreement to action. So they are focusing on agreement to action. So which agreement or which framework are they talking here? They are talking about the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, which was adopted in the year 2022, December 2022 in COP 15. Conference of 15 of Convention on Biodiversity. So we need to know about the Kunming-Montreal Protocol, okay, or the framework. Next, this meeting primarily focuses on creating a progress monitoring mechanism. So they have focused on creating a progress monitoring mechanism. Moreover, in this meeting, it addressed implications of assessment which has been conducted by IPBES and then IPCC, the sixth assessment report of IPCC. What is IPBES? And what is IPCC? All these details we will understand one by one. So in this news article, we'll be studying about this body, that is subsidiary body. Next is we'll be understanding about this Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, and then we'll be discussing about these two organizations or these two bodies. Okay, so let us get into the details one by one. First is this subsidiary body on scientific, technical and technological advice. What is it? It under Article 25 of the Convention on Biodiversity. So it is under the Convention on Biodiversity, which is important, which may be asked in the question. Okay, so this is under Convention on Biodiversity. It establishes an open-ended intergovernmental. Okay, so this is an intergovernmental organization or intergovernmental organization or body. Okay, that is the scientific advisory body. Okay, and its purpose is to provide the conference of parties. Conference of parties will be happening once in a year, right? According to this CBD, that is Convention on Biological Diversity, once in a year this conference of party will be taking place. And here the role of this advisory, scientific advisory, is to give timely advice relating to implementation of the convention. That is what we need to know. Okay, so their role is to give timely advice which is related to the implementation of the convention. Next is IBPES. What is this IBPES? It is an independent intergovernmental body, again, which has been established by the member states in the year 2012 itself. Okay, and it strengthens the science policy interface for biodiversity ecosystem and ecosystem services for conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity, long-term human well-being and sustainable development. This is what the focus area of IBPES. And in this meeting, assessment reports about IBPES was also discussed. That is why we are seeing this here. And yet another body here is IPCC. What is this IPCC? It is United Nations body for assessing the science related to climate change. So they are going to assess the science related to the climate change. Okay, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, that is IPCC, and it was set up in the year 1988 by World Meteorological Organization and United Nations Environment Program, which is important. Okay, this was already asked in UPSC prelims examination, that IPCC was formed by which two organizations? One is WMO and another one is UNEP. Okay, next is, this was done to provide policy makers with regular assessment of the scientific basis of climate change, its impacts and future risks, and also options for adaptation and mitigation. This is what this IPCC, that is Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, will be providing. And then they will be releasing assessment reports, and at present they have recently released their 6th assessment report, and this report was discussed in the meeting, in the recently held meeting. That is why it is in news. So this is the journey of IPCC, that is, it was formed or established in the year 1988, and then in 2007 it was awarded Nobel Peace Prize, and they have been playing a significant role in UNFCCC, that is Framework Convention on Climate Change, Kyoto Protocol. They have contributed a lot, and then many adaptation strategies they have given, and this 2 degrees Celsius limit was given, and Paris Agreement is actually based on this. Okay, so they have set 1.5 degrees Celsius as the limit, and then it has played many role, and recently they have played role in UNFCCC Global Stocktake Report. Okay, so these are all the efforts done by this IPCC, the contribution given by IPCC to climate science and policy making. This is what we need to understand. Next is, what are all the recommendations given here? Okay, first one is the group finalized. The recommendations given here are by the meeting. Okay, the recently held meeting in Nairobi in Kenya. Okay, In this meeting, they have given the following recommendation. The first one is the group finalized 15 key points for presentation in the 16th meeting of the Conference of Parties of Convention on Biological Diversity or Biodiversity. Okay, and this approach aligns with the goals of many other conventions like the Kunming-Montreal Biodiversity Framework and other global initiatives like UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development. Okay, Sustainable Goal Achievement by the year 2030. So this approach is actually aligning with all these global initiatives and conventions which we need to know. Next, the meeting emphasized the importance of utilizing the work of other multilateral agencies including World Health Organization and Food and Agriculture Organization, which is important, and this is done to enhance the scientific and technical guidance in implementing the Kunming-Montreal framework. Okay, so now we'll have to understand in detail about this Kunming-Montreal framework. Yes, this framework was adopted during the 15th Conference of Party meeting, okay, which is important. This happened in the year 2022, and this Conference of Party is under this convention, that is Convention on Biological Diversity, again important. And this historic framework which supports the achievement of sustainable development goals and builds on the convention's previous strategic plans, okay, and it sets out an ambitious path to reach the global vision of world living in harmony with nature. So this is the key idea or the theme of this particular framework, that is world living in harmony with nature, and this has to be done by the year 2050. Okay, so world living in harmony with nature by the year 2050, that is what the key theme is. And they also have another important initiative called as 30 by 30. Okay, this 30 by 30 initiative was agreed at this COP15 meeting, which actually adopted the framework. Okay, and it became a target of this framework. This 30 by 30 has become a target of this Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. And what is this 30 by 30? It is a worldwide initiative for governments to designate 30% of Earth's land and ocean area as protected area by the year 30. Okay, so they have to designate 30% of the Earth's land and ocean area as protected area by the year 2030, that is 30 by 30. Okay, next, under this framework you have 4 targets or 4 goals for the year 2050 and 23 targets for the year 2030. Okay, so the 4 goals for the year 2050 are conserve and restore biodiversity, ensure sustainable use of biodiversity, share benefits fairly and equitably, enable transformative change. Okay, so these things you can directly use in your answer writing, which will definitely add value to your answer writing. Okay, next is, what are all the 23 targets? Let us have a brief understanding of what these 23 targets are. These targets are for the year 2030. Okay, so you no need to have this by heart, but then you must have a rough understanding of what these targets are. Okay, next is, so with this we have come to end of this particular topic, that is the meeting, the subsidiary bodies meeting. Okay, the topic that we are going to discuss now is detection of avian influenza in Antarctic region. So what is this avian influenza in Antarctic region? Why have they how is it alarming here? Why is it important to study the detection of avian influenza in this region? Is this the first time it is happening here? All those details let us understand. So this is the first known case of HPAI, that is avian influenza, highly potential avian influenza in the Antarctic region, specifically in Bird Island in South Georgia. Okay, and the presence of this virus in this remote area raises concerns for wildlife particularly penguins and seals. So these two marine organisms, these two organisms, that is seals and then penguins, which live in Antarctic region, okay, they are at, I mean, they are becoming vulnerable each day, and this virus spread is causing a major concern here. And given their limited exposure to such disease in the past, the introduction of HPAI could lead to rapid spread and devastating impact on these populations, which is very important. Already they are exposed to many such diseases already, earlier, and now this spread of avian influenza will cause furthermore problems. And preserving the health of these species is critical. It is not only critical for the survivability of those species, but also to maintain the delicate balance of the entire Antarctic ecosystem. Okay, so if these penguins or if the seals are lost, then it will severely disturb the Antarctic ecosystem. So it is important to conserve these species. So we need to preserve the health of these species. Next is, researchers have suggested that the virus may have reached Antarctic region from South America. Okay, and this avian influenza, especially H5 and H7 strains of avian influenza, primarily affects birds and it can be highly pathogenic. Okay, so the virus can cause high mortality in wild bird population, and it is known to spread among birds and mammals, which is important. And the researchers have identified vulnerable wildlife groups including gulls, squaws, birds of prey, terns, shorebirds, fur seal, seal lion, southern elephant seal, and dolphins. These are all the organisms which are being vulnerable to the attack of these avian influenza, that is H5 and H7. That is highly pathogenic avian influenza, HPAI. The topic that we are going to discuss now is dancing frogs. What are these dancing frogs? Why are they in news? Let us understand one by one. So dancing frogs, which are endemic to Western Ghats, they are endemic to Western Ghats, very important. Endemic to Western Ghats means they are living only in Western Ghats. They are not found anywhere else in the world. Okay, so they are endemic to Western Ghats. And why are they in news? Because they are the most threatened amphibian genus of India, which is important. Okay, statements like these can be directly asked in your prelims examination, and this has been concluded by Wildlife Trust of India, a nature conservation non-profit organization. Okay, Wildlife Trust of India has concluded that this dancing frogs are the most threatened amphibian species of India, and this assessment has been, or this analysis has been made based on the second edition of Global Amphibian Assessment which has been released recently. Okay, and of the 24 species of the frogs belonging to this genus, that is Micrizalus, there is a Micrizalus genus, there are 27 species of frogs in this genus. 2 are found to be critically endangered, and one among the 2 is these dancing frogs. Okay, and 15 were endangered, and this makes them the most threatened of all Indo-Malayan genera. Okay, and it is also the 5th most threatened genus in the world, with 92% of its species is threatened, in the threatened category. Okay, so this is the 5th most threatened genus, which is again important. Okay, this also we need to know. Next is, these dancing frogs are found near the streams, and they do display a unique mating display. Okay, what do? The male stretch up their hind limb, okay, hind legs, one at a time, and wave their webbed toes in the air in a rapid motion, which is similar to a dance. That is why they are also called as dancing frogs. Okay, so the males stretch up their hind legs one at a time, and then they wave their webbed toe in the air in a rapid motion. Okay, I'll show you the picture of how it is done, and this is to attract the mates as well as to ward off the competition or its rivals. Okay, and this act is called as food flagging, and it gives the species their name. Okay, so a question based on this can be asked: which of the following organism exhibit food flagging as a means to attract their female part, okay, or their mates? Okay, and this species was found to prefer habitats in areas with thick canopy cover of at least 70 to 80%. So there must be thick canopy cover in only in such areas these species will be thriving. Okay, so what is that food flagging? This is how it is done. It will raise one of its food and then it will open its web wide and then it will shake it rapidly, and that is why they are also called as dancing frogs. Okay, food flagging. Next is this particular variety of dancing frog which has been found in Western Ghats is facing many threats, and the scientific name for this frog is Micryzalis because it belongs to the genus Micryzalis, and then Kottigeherensis. What is this Kottigeherensis? Because it is found in the area called Kottigehera. Okay, so these are threatened by invasive species, land use change, variation in temperature and humidity, extreme weather events like flood and excess rainfall, and infectious diseases, water pollution, light pollution, and infrastructure projects such as dams. These are all causing a major threat to these frogs. And then in India, 139 of the total 426 species were categorized as critically endangered, endangered, or vulnerable in IUCN. Okay, of the 426 species of amphibians, 139 are in the threatened category or endangered category of IUCN, which is important. Next is, as many as 64 species of amphibians found in Western Ghats alone are on the list of endangered species, which is again an important statement. And after dancing frog, we saw that of the 15 frog varieties, okay, there are two varieties which are critically endangered. One is this dancing frog and another one is this night frogs, okay, also called as Nyctibatrachidae. Okay, and they are the most threatened with 83.9% of its species threatened across the southern states of Karnataka, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. So this is the second one, and the first one is the dancing frog. And then Wildlife Trust of India has a project. It is conducting a project that is amphibian recovery project, which is done in the Munnar area of Kerala landscape, and it is actively working to recover the population of threatened amphibians, which is important. Okay, so where is this located? Where is this project undertaken? It is in Munnar in Kerala, which is important, maybe asked in the exam. The topic that we are going to discuss now is Badis limacumi. What is this Badis limacumi? It is actually a fish variety or a fish species, newly discovered fish species. Where have they discovered it? Let us understand. Scientists have discovered a new fish species called Badis limacumi in Milak River in Nagaland. So where have they found it? In Milak River in Nagaland. And this species is named after Limacum. Who is this Limacum? Limacum is an assistant professor and head of the zoology department at Fazal Ali College in Nagaland, and this species is unique because it can change its color similar to a chameleon. Okay, next, Badis limacumi belongs to Badidae family and it is a freshwater fish, which is important. Okay, because it is in the river, Milak River, thus it is a freshwater fish, and it is commonly found in the streams with slow and moderate water flow, which is again important. Okay, they are found only in the streams which has slow and moderate water flow, and this is how the fish will be looking. It has this ability to change its color like a chameleon, and it is also found in the ditches and stagnant water bodies in various countries like India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, Thailand, and Myanmar, all the Asian countries here. Okay, and the fish from this Badis family is known as chameleon fish. It is also called as chameleon fish because it can change its colors. Okay, because of their remarkable ability to change color, which helps them to blend with their surroundings when they are under stress. Okay, so they change their color when they are threatened. So these are all the topics which we need to understand. So with this, we have come to end of today's session. I hope you found the session to be very useful and informative. Let us see in the next session. Thank you.